Call to order the Tuesday, June 12th, 2018 meeting, the City of Davenport Historic Preservation Commission. If you have a pager or cell phone, please place it in silent mode. And we welcome everyone who's watching us at home on the city's cable TV channel. The Commission has before it the consideration of the April 10th, 2018 meeting minutes. Are there any changes, deletions, or additions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So, second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes of April 10th, 2018 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the minutes are approved. We'll move on to communications. Ryan?
Hopefully everyone's had a chance to see the Adler marquee and projecting wall sign going up. We took a few progress pictures. Here's a good one showing some of the detailing going there. That I think came out great. Felt like it took forever to get here though, but those were it. So just wanted to share that with you and the public. Didn't know if we had any comments or questions on that.
I want to commend the staff of the Adler for working with the commission. The designer took the commission's comments, incorporated them, and it captures a lot of the historic sign in both of these. And I've heard, excuse me, nothing but public comments in the favor of what this does for East 3rd Street. And for next month, I would like staff to collect pictures of the renovated First Federal Building and its adjoining building. I think the community college needs this kind of recognition too, because that really stands out on the corner of 3rd and Brady.
Well, that whole half block
Yes.
is just incredible. Yeah. Had one more thing, and Commissioner Cordes had emailed me earlier about how to navigate to some of the historic resources on the webpage, and so I figured I'd just briefly run through how to find that for you and for anybody in the public. Just as an internet browse, I usually just type in City of Davenport maps. It brings you to this page here, and this is really a link to our GIS maps. What you want to click is the city map. See on the top right hand side there's these looks like layers of paper. You want to click down that, and then I want to go ahead and click the planning layers, but that's not going to get you exactly where you need to be. You need to expand this box here. You see overlay districts, and you see historic resources, which you've got to check. You can kind of turn these other things off. Then that turns on all the historic resources in the city. You can see, you got to kind of zoom in, but I actually went through and identified all of the individually listed properties. Those are in blue. All the green are the local historic landmarks. This commission reviews and approves properties that are highlighted in green. And so, if you had a particular question as a piece of property historic, could navigate here and even here kind of shows you the blue and the green. This is a resource for the community as well as you, and it's just kind of hidden. I think we have aspirations to kind of make historic resources its own link, so you click that and it comes up. But just wanted to go over that very quickly, and that's really all I have.
there any other communication from commission members tonight? Seeing none, we have no old business tonight. Under new business, we have case number COA 18-04. Various work in an attempt to rehabilitate and restore the house and auto house at 627 Ripley Street. The Lewis P. and Clara L. Krause Best House is located in the local historic Hamburg district. Dave DeCortis is the petitioner. Staff report.
As you recall, David gave a presentation of some long-term goals for the property. He has returned to gain approval for that. I call it a rehabilitation / restoration because I think in some aspects there's an attempt to bring it back to what it was originally, and then there's some attempt where some detailing may not have known. So really it's staff's opinion that it would achieve consistency with section 1723.080 of the Davenport City Code, which is the certificate of appropriateness process and your review criteria. So staff does recommend approval as written up and with the submitted work write-up. You can scroll up and down this way. Zeros there.
This is up and down.
Yeah.
This is a pointer, right?
Yep.
He owns the property.
How long was he?
I don't.
That's all you get is there or there, right? I was trying to get, yeah, there we go. I was just trying to get the picture up where you could see it. That's perfect. All right. So I've looked at this list of things so many times, and I've been working on my computer all day to the point that I don't hardly have any vision anymore. And while this should be really crisp in my mind, it seems like it's very foggy and confused at this moment. So the the project, as Ryan said, and I think it's perhaps unique or unusual to most COAs that an applicant is looking for permission to change something. And what we're planning to do does not make any change except to return the building to the way it was originally. But we're not doing every last detail. There are some things on the back that we're leaving alone for now. Lost my train of thought there. Well, it'll come to me a little bit. So I may, it's easier for me to look at the pictures and talk about it than it is to follow the narrative in the application. So if that's okay with the commission, that's what I will do. Yeah. So it's restoring the windows in this area, putting in the casements built out of wood in the same pattern as were there originally. Opening the original screen porch and reconstructing it the way it was. Saving the assortment of windows that were reused into that porch. Reusing those that fit into the project and storing the original ones that don't fit into the project at the current time. There is an entrance door around on the south side that was a 1928 component, and we don't plan on reusing that or saving that. And there's a window that would go around to the other side of the house. This one came from the back side, and it will be stored, marked and stored, identified where its original location was, how it got to be in storage, and then permanently stored in the basement. And construction picture of the house. Shortly after the house was completed, and you can see the screens that were there at that time and the casements that are up there. They're a little bit hard to see. This is a photo from 1923 in the fall, and you can see the arcade, the garage all opened up. And around 1915 in the front of the house, I believe. And the iron, there are photos that we can drill into and see a very crisp pattern of those, of the pattern of the metal grill, the iron grills under the porch. They're visible there, and there's one more back there. I think this photo was around 1911. And the article about fireproof construction. This was a national publication, and it featured this property here in Davenport. Maybe a little bit unique in all of this is a lot of the movement across the country for fireproof construction, and the tile products that were available were mostly distributed nationwide. However, the products used in this house were Davenport brick and tiles, and the way they were designed and stacked up was different, considerably different than Natco or some of the others. I guess that's it, isn't it? One thing we're asking Latitude is for the garage doors. We have been working with a company that can build doors to match the originals, and it may be feasible. And if it turns out to be that, we would really like to do that. But cost is a huge concern in it, and we do want the ability to get garage doors in one way or another. So our alternate plan would be for smooth, plain, no pattern whatsoever on the garage doors as an overhead garage door. And we think that while not the best solution, is an acceptable solution according to the guidelines. And the way it's concealed back in behind that arcade, it's not as prominent as it might be in another building in a different situation. Are there any questions that I can answer to clarify anything on?
Are there any commissioners with questions for Dave? I see none.
Okay.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve case number COA 18-04 as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call.
So I have Cordes down to abstain. Keel,
Yes.
Wanio,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Thoreau, and Free.
Yes. Thank you, and good luck with your project, Dave. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the Historic Preservation Commission review and provide a recommendation for the First National Bank building of Davenport at 1606 Brady Street to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Ryan?
So this is the former school board administration building to the south of the Aldi there on Brady. This is another mid-century modern that's coming to us. The developer is seeking to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places in order to benefit from historic tax credits, which would offset the cost for rehabilitating the building. The consultant here noted that the building, let's see if I can find some pictures here, that the building was significant for architecture. I think it's been the position of this commission to normally recommend that a property be listed just so that makes the process easier for the developer to be listed on the National Register. So basically doing two things, providing a recommendation, should it be listed on the National Register, and that would allow the chairperson to sign the certified local government form. So this is one of the benefits of being a certified local government is if property does go through that National Register process, that it affords this commission an opportunity to take a look at it and provide comments.
Commissioner McGivern.
So I'm sorry, Ryan, I have a couple questions. Reading through it, I wasn't sure. Is the petitioner a developer in pending, or is it the school district itself? I couldn't understand that.
It would be the former. And so, there's really no benefit to this. Well, I don't know that for sure. I'm presuming because...
So the former means...
It would be a developer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect. Thank
it's
you.
usually not normal for a school board to take on the task of
That's fine.
listening. Yep.
And then what's the difference of refresh my memory, First Federal Building downtown?
Yep.
We made it historically significant, but we didn't put it on the list.
So the developer at that point had requested, basically nominated it to be on the local historic landmark to help him be listed on the National Register, and he was successful at doing that.
So both of these are fairly comparable? I just want to make sure we're being fair.
Yeah, and so it's comparable in the sense that this developer is not going through the local landmark process. They don't need to if they don't want to, but perhaps feels that the architecture is good enough that they don't need the commission's local landmark approval. I would say it's not normal for somebody to local landmark and then go through that process.
Okay, thank you.
What I like in the nomination, it speaks to the public areas that basically remain intact from when the building was built in the mid-'60s. This was my bank. This is the first bank. They had a branch down the west end. My mother started a savings account for me when I was 14 years old. So I remember when they moved from downtown to this bank and became Bretton Bank, and then over the years were bought out by larger regionals and national banks. But it's exciting to have another mid-century modern come before us. My only comment is, and I would like you to email the people that developed the nomination that Davenport is a Midwestern city on page 3, not a southeastern city, and Scott County is not located in the southeast corner of the state. It's located in the east central part of the state. And it's also, they mentioned it's the largest city in the Quad Cities. It's also the largest city between Minneapolis, St. Paul, and St. Louis. Dave, Commissioner Cordes.
Yes. My recollection, and I might not be correct on this, but when the National Register nomination was considered for the building downtown, it was less than 50 years old, and so it could not be listed unless it was of exceptional historic significance. And while that was determined not to be the case, that it was exceptional, then the path was to go for local landmark designation.
I think your recollection is correct, and I also recall that there were some interior renovations that lessened its significance.
The advantage of National Register designation is for the federal credits, because the federal credits do require National Register nomination within 2 years of the completion of the project, I believe the timeline is. I thought the nomination was very well prepared. And I too was especially pleased to see the detail on the interior spaces and some of the original features that aren't in use anymore, but are not damaged and not removed, such as fountains underneath the staircases and things like that were kind of ubiquitous to shopping malls and all kinds of public spaces, airports and pavilions that were built at this time. And I guess as I was reading the nomination, what struck me a little bit more than anything, and this is really a side note, doesn't have anything to do with anything, but when I first started to get really interested in the National Register process, the 50-year threshold for a building to qualify put that date at 1928. And in my mind, that was an old building. Of course, I didn't live in Davenport, but if I did, I would have watched this building be constructed. And so in my mind, this is a very modern and current new building, and perceptions change through the course of a person's life. And it's humorous, I think.
Is there any other discussion on the recommendation for the First National Bank building of Davenport to be placed on the National Register of Historic Places? Commissioner McGivern. Okay. I would entertain a motion to recommend that the First National Bank building of Davenport be placed on the National Register of Historic Places.
So moved.
Is there a second? Yes, second. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Cordis?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Wanio? McGivern?
Yes.
Hero?
Yes.
Free.
Yes. We'll move on to other business related to this. Before the meeting, Ryan and I discussed. We've gone almost 20 years since the last study of properties in Davenport, and now we're into properties built in the 50s and 60s, and I think we need to work with staff upstairs and possibly next year apply for a grant to study the buildings in Davenport that were built in the 50s and 60s and see whether they qualify for the National Register. So that's something that we should put on our list for next year, I believe. Is there any other business? Seeing none. Is there anyone that would like to address the commission? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the commission is adjourned.